Binge the full week of The Ray Taylor Show ad-free over at inspireddisorder.com/plus.
This is The Ray Taylor Show.
Swipe Up, episode 209. This is the show where I share my opinions on current events, things that are going on in the world. It's what I think about them. These are my thoughts, whether you like them or not. And I think the majority of people do. I don't know why you would torture yourself listening to somebody whose opinions you disagree with. But definitely there's a lot of people in the comment section who like to torture themselves and think they can change my mind based on insults. Let's get into it, shall we? Let's start off with this first story. It blew up the internet the other day. It definitely did exactly what it was intended, to get attention. As we all saw, the two girls who threw tomato soup on the painting of Van Gogh sunflowers, the Van Gogh painting sunflowers, in protest of climate change, in protest of oil companies, and which is something I agree with. But I saw so many people outraged by this with just the most ignorant takes. And I couldn't wait to talk about this on this show because, one, that painting, very similarly to the painting I talked about a few months ago when the Mona Lisa had cake thrown on it, both the Mona Lisa and this Van Gogh painting were protected by glass. So everybody is wrong on all of their takes, how this has been reported on all the headlines. This painting in no way was damaged. This painting was protected, is protected by glass. So the tomato soup got some glass dirty. First off, painting's fine. So everybody who, like, I've seen some hateful takes thinking that these people should be tortured and burned alive, burned at the stake. They should lose their freedom for the rest of they should be executed. Like some of the most horrific takes, right? For a painting that was not damaged in any way. The intention was to get attention. And that was successful because everybody knew about this, right? Painting's fine, right? Second off, if you really care, second off, if humanity goes extinct, if the world burns, if we keep heading in the same direction we've been heading and burning fossil fuels and destroying the environment, when humans become extinct, art is going to be very meaningless. There is no point in any form of artwork existing if people don't, if society doesn't. If we are living in a post-apocalyptic reality, Van Gogh's painting isn't going to mean shit. Okay? So that's two. And third, all of these people with their hateful takes on these protesters, if they actually gave a shit about art, there are millions of struggling artists who are currently alive today that they can support financially by actually collecting their artwork. I being one of those artists. So if you really care about art, why don't you take that energy and put it into collecting art of people that are alive? Because I don't know if you know this, but Van Gogh is dead. That art, that painting he did, is meaningless to him, right? That painting only has value because a lot of wealthy people say it has value, right? It's not a magical painting. The same thing with the Mona Lisa. The Mona Lisa is not a magical painting. They are only valued pieces of art because wealthy people say they are valuable pieces of art. Right? You want to talk about how ridiculous NFTs are. Well, the art world is very similar to that reality. Things only have a value in the art world because people say they have a value. It's not like it's not magical artwork. It's not an expression of mastery in any artwork. Just a painting. Van Gogh wasn't a very prolific artist. I think he even died before his work was even appreciated, right? So if you want to actually do right by artists, if you want to do right by other people who are like Van Gogh, why don't you appreciate their work before they're dead and collect art? But people are just using this as a way to be angry, right? Be angry, one, at climate because they deny any kind of climate. They don't like anybody protesting anything that would change their life in the smallest iota. They hate, right? These are the same people that cried about COVID lockdowns, right? I can't get to my hair salon. They don't care. They don't care about public safety. They don't care about their neighbors. They could care less. It is all about their selfish need to do whatever they want to do. So I support this. And then I saw some article where some oil baron is the one who funded this Just Stop Oil movement, which doesn't make any sense. Like, oh, they just want to show how insane, crazy these liberals are fighting for things. It's like, that is, maybe somebody is funding them, maybe that is, but it's not what, like, I don't think it's insane. This is similar to what happened with the Mona Lisa painting. This has been happening in galleries where scientists and protesters glue themselves to pieces of work, to walls, to use the popularity of these pieces of artwork that are only valuable because wealthy people said they're valuable. So this is nothing new. This one just happened to garner a lot of attention. I think even more than the Mona Lisa did. But the painting's fine. The painting's fine. The most damage that was done will be to the palms of those girls that glued their hands to the wall, right? Maybe the wall will need a little bit of touching up. But this is happening. There are scientists protesting in these similar ways constantly because they know the path that we're on as humans. They know what's going to be happening, that we are seeing happening to the world currently, with insane storms, with insane droughts, with the ice caps melting at exponentially faster rates than previously expected, temperatures rising. There are massive shifts going on in this world that us as humans are not prepared for whatsoever. But you have all these little selfish people who just want to be angry, that hate anything that's liberal. They hate anything that would require them to live a life that is even marginally compassionate towards somebody other than themselves. Want to demonize. I saw a few level-headed takes on this story, but the majority of people are just like the most ignorant hate. But nothing happened to the painting. Artwork itself will be meaningless if we continue down the same path of destroying the planet. Meaningless. And there are people that I would put so much money to bet the majority of people who were talking shit about this protest, as well as all the other protests, right? But specifically the ones involving art, right? This, the Mona Lisa, other pieces of art that have been used as a way to garner attention. I would put so much money down to bet that those people do not collect, do not purchase art from artists, do not support artists in any way, right? Their living rooms, their homes are probably decorated with stuff they got from Target, stuff they got mass-produced by some company, something that there's a million copies of in IKEA, right? The most unoriginal art that supports no artist whatsoever, right? They don't go to art fairs. They don't support local independent artists. They just want a reason to hate. The same types of people that will come into my comment section of this show on YouTube, on social media, and they will cry. They will cry telling me how wrong I am. Wasting their time. Just zero compassion for actual artists, for actual people trying to do good. Because when it comes down to it, they're trying to save the asshole's life just as much as their own. They're doing something that is heroic. Trying to save humanity. You want to talk about some superhero shit? What do you think the Avengers do? They save humanity. But you don't go around, you don't see these superhero bullshit movies that Disney puts out. You don't see people like demonizing them. Right? People die like innocent bystanders left and right when they're trying to save. They don't zero. I mean, some superhero stuff they do, like The Boys, they kind of have a more realistic view on what superheroes actually would be like. But yeah, I'm 100% support what they did. In my opinion, Sunflowers by Van Gogh, overrated. Overrated piece of art. Did he do some cool stuff? Sure. Did he have a style that was very unique? Sure. Was he crazy? I don't know. I think he had mental problems because of ether. Because of like environmental issues. But he's not like a magical artist. He's not a genius. You look online, you Google Van Gogh Sunflowers, you will see hundreds of variations of that same painting. And I guarantee the majority of people, if given only the different images, all of the different variations, would never be able to pick out the authentic painting. Because it's not magical. It's not magical. Art is not magical. The only reason Van Gogh's piece of work is valued is because wealthy people said so. That's it. And these girls used that made up magical piece of artwork as a way to get a lot of attention successfully. And of course, the effect of it probably not going to be as good, I guess. I don't know. It definitely got attention. But, like, I don't know if these protests are ever really going to do anything. Like, just to see the backlash of it, to see how very little as a whole, in average, how just uncaring most people are about their fellow man, about humanity, about society. We live in a reality of, like, desperately selfish people. So, anyway, those are my thoughts on that protest. Let's take a little break from the show to promote. If you sign up for Inspired Disorder Plus for 1 year specifically, you get a free painting. So a year subscription of Inspired Disorder Plus is $50. The painting, the majority of them are $100. So it's a $150 value signing up for 1 year of Inspired Disorder Plus. So not only do you get a free painting, but you also are subscribed to Plus for a year, which means that you can binge this show, The Ray Taylor Show, ad-free, the full week, ad-free, available on Monday. You also get discounts that are members-only pricing type of deals. All of the podcasts that I've produced in the past, close to 20 different podcasts I've produced, hundreds of episodes. There's also my personal blog. You can ask me anything if you want to start podcasting or get into art. All of that stuff available in addition to a free painting when you sign up to 1 year subscription of Inspired Disorder Plus. Head on over to inspireddisorder.com/plus and become an Inspired Disorder Plus member today. And now let's get back to the show. Let's move on. Last week I talked about an obviously fake piece of vandalism. It's a common thing going on where conservatives will try to be the martyr. They so desperately want to be the martyr. They so desperately want to be the victim. They so desperately want to believe that they are being attacked by liberals that they will vandalize their own property in order to get attention, in order to be the victim, in order to be that martyr, to get one step closer to what it was like for Jesus to give his life for the Lord. But what happens is they get found out, and that's what happened in this one. Trump supporter pleads guilty, graffitied his own home with Biden 2020 and BLM. Right? And if you look at these, it's so easy. I mentioned in the last week's post, it was one of the very few times they accurately depicted the anarchy symbol. Right? And this one is an example of what they do generally, where they will have an capital A within a circle, which is not how you draw the anarchy symbol. For anybody who doodled as a child, the anarchy symbol was one of the most popular symbols to draw as a child on your notepaper in class. And that is an A that every aspect of the A protrudes through the circle. But this is an example of so many of them, they will have this anarchy, what they think is an anarchy symbol. Actually, they don't even think of it as an anarchy symbol. They think of this as the A standing for Antifa, which is not. It's an anarchy symbol. Antifa separate, anarchy separate, BLM separate. They may have all similar types of, liberal views. Like they all kind of are different organizations fighting for similar types of change. In some ways, anarchy isn't really fighting for that. Anarchy in a lot of ways is more similar to like a libertarian view, right? But they love using it because they think they put the things that they think their enemies worship, because that's what their propaganda tells them liberals worship. So they think, oh, these liberals, they're going to come to my house. That's what they're thinking. It's like, what would a liberal who is evil, right? Marjorie Taylor Greene thinks liberals are killing conservatives, right? Spreading like disgusting, horrible lies in order for them to feel like victims. That they're not. Nobody's killing conservatives aside from other conservatives or maybe police, right? Because police kill a lot of people. So they think that we would paint Biden 2020 on somebody's garage. Doesn't make any sense. BLM, because it's part of, it's another movement that is on the liberal side of things. Black Lives Matter, right? And then the A, which they think is Antifa, but is anarchy. So it doesn't really fit. People who are pro-anarchy aren't really voting. They're not really part of groups. Anarchy is very much opposed to a lot of that stuff, but they think it's Antifa, which is specific to police, or actually anti-fascism in general. I'm thinking of ACAB, Antifa, anti-fascism, which they don't get. They think Antifa is a thing. They don't understand that Antifa stands for anti-fascist, which they are. Fascists. Not kind of fascist like Biden said. They're hardcore, totally for fascism. In every category, if there's the checklist of things that are a fascist regime, they mark every box. They're for it in all of the ways. And this, similar to when the BLM protests happened after George Floyd's murder, global protests happened. There were a lot of fires, a lot of property damage. And what turned out to be the people responsible for a lot of that property damage during the Black Lives Matter protests was actually conservatives. It was a lot of right-wing groups who took advantage of a situation in order to cause damage, to make it seem like the protests were more violent than they were, to somehow justify the police brutality in response to what were primarily peaceful protests. But if somebody, right, let's just hypothetically step into a fantasy world where a liberal is angry and they're living next to a fascist right-wing neighbor who's probably racist also, right? I could see BLM maybe. I wouldn't necessarily. Like, seriously, if I was going to vandalize a fascist garage, I would paint swastikas on it. Because that is their symbol. That is the symbol that most represents their beliefs. But it's a symbol for a lot of them. Some of them embrace that symbol, but for a lot of them, don't, like, they're in denial of the fact that they align so much with the Nazi regime, right? But that would be one. SS, kind of, not as well known, not as popular as the swastika, but having a twisted cross on there, that would be like the go-to. That would be the go-to if I were. But generally, what happens is people just don't care. They want to avoid, right? What happens on the other side, people, liberals that have signs up in their yards, like a rainbow flag or a BLM sign, like they post things on their own property. Usually what happens is conservatives get really angry and There's tons of videos of conservatives vandalizing. You never see a video of this stuff happening. It's always the aftermath. But there's tons of videos of angry fascists tearing down anything that is pro-inclusive. Like anything that's inclusive with the LGBTQ, inclusive with Black Lives Matter, inclusive with other religions. Any kind of inclusivity is demonized, attacked, and torn down by these fascists, these racists. It doesn't really go the other way, right? Because we just want to, like, live in harmony. We want to, like, live peacefully. We want people to kind of just live however they want. Just don't impose your hateful reality on us, right? If you want to be racist, I'm not going to change you, but I don't need you forcing your racism down my throat. If you're Christian, I'm not going to try and convince you that Christianity is a rebooted religion that stole all of their holidays from paganism. I'm not trying to convince you of the fraudulent nature of this made-up religion. I just don't want you shoving it down my throat. Right? Like, I'm not trying to change straight people into changing their preferences sexually. I just don't think their binary system of gender and sexuality should be applied to everybody. That's the issue. The issue is these fascists wanting to have everybody conform to their way of life and assuming that's what we want to do to them, which is the opposite. That's why so much of what they do is project. Everything's projecting, right? Grooming. That's literally what they do. They groom. They groom their kids to brainwash them into a religion. They groom their kids because they think that they can train them to not be gay. They don't accept the fact that there is an infinite amount of ways for a human to express themselves in this reality. They think it should be a binary. They want everything to fit into their fake system of structure. So anyway, every time one of these stories comes up, I want to do like a series of these fake vandalism things because there's a lot of similarities. And they're always bad quality, right? Like usually if somebody is going to go like most people that spray paint stuff are usually like artists, they have good technique. And then you look at stuff like this, like the B in Biden is like, it was clearly their first time using a spray can. Like they went over it a few times, right? The first one was probably a little shaky because they were nervous because they were vandalizing their own property. But there's a lot of similarities between these things. And none of them technically are any good. They're not very good at spray painting stuff. Let's move on to somebody else that seems to have supported the fascist lifestyle. Kanye West wears White Lives Matter shirt at a Yeezy show. There was a time when Kanye West told the world that George Bush doesn't care about black people after Hurricane, what was that? Katrina devastated Louisiana. And Bush was president, Republican President Bush, who was the president who responsible while 9/11 happened, the president who lied about weapons of mass destruction in Iraq for us to go invade Iraq for no reason, to start endless wars in the Middle East. President Bush, who was dragging his feet to help people who were devastated by this hurricane because the vast majority of people living there were black. So this is back before Kanye went full crazy, right? And actually had compassion for people of color, considering Kanye's a black dude. You know, you could assume, but not anymore. Because over the past few years, not only has it been very clear that Kanye has serious mental health issues that are publicly well known, but he's also started to just support the side of George Bush, the conservative side, which is also the side of white supremacy. And one of the expressions of white supremacy from the conservatives is this White Lives Matter idea in rebuttal to Black Lives Matter, right? So, and of course, Candace Owens, who is another woman of color who also pushes white supremacy like all of the other conservative right-wing people do. It's like the underlying kind of thing to everything, all of their propaganda. And Kanye's on that same bit. I never liked Kanye. Never. The fact that people call him a genius is mind-blowing. It is mind-blowing that people call him a genius. I have seen zero proof of his genius ever. Zero. His shoes, despite the fact that they were popular, looked pretty, like, disgusting. Like, it wasn't mind-blowing on any level. It felt very industrial, right? It felt like some low-level graphic designer, or not even a graphic designer, just like some low-level person with, Microsoft Paint put them together. It's just, I don't know. I don't understand why people think he's a genius. But I think we've gotten to a point where I know there's a lot of fans of his that are liberal, right? There's definitely a lot of, like, when he went Christian and he started supporting, which Christianity is another facet of white supremacy. There's a reason why Christians turned a Middle Eastern person into a white man, because that's what white supremacy is. They wouldn't want to worship somebody from the Middle East. They have to worship a white person. And that is a very major aspect of Christianity, is the worship of a guy from the Middle East that they portray as being white. So once he got Christian, was kind of one of the signs of his leaning to the right. And then there's this, which is like at this point, and then he went on Twitter and declared war against Jewish people, which is, again, very white supremacy. Then he went, and recently I saw a video of him trying to defend the police officer who murdered George Floyd on camera, saying it was fentanyl and saying that the media blew it at, like, just pushing conspiracy theory propaganda that makes a cold-blooded killer in a police uniform innocent. Just like whatever narrative they could come up with creatively in order to make their soldiers innocent of any crimes. Trying to say it's fentanyl, which is a hilarious thing, because there's the way the police react to fentanyl and say they react to fentanyl versus the history of fentanyl within the medical institutions, nurses and doctors. Like, if fentanyl was as crazily dangerous as the police and Kanye and other white supremacists that are kind of using it as a scare tactic, making people ultra scared. Not that you can't die from fentanyl, but it's not something, the way they say it is like, if you get close to it, like in proximity, you touch fentanyl, you'll die. Which is not true. If it was that hazardous, it wouldn't have use in medicine for, I don't know, decades, a century. I don't know when they started using fentanyl in hospitals as a painkiller, but it's been around for a long time. It's just kind of just another one of these new things that they're using in order to trump up charges on people, in order to probably file false workman comp claims. Who knows? There's tons of ways the police try to take advantage of the system to get overtime and all these different things to collect more money, kill people to go on vacation. So I think we're at a point where you can't separate Kanye from his art. You can't. I mean, people will. Sure. I won't. Like, I can't. Like, if somebody likes Kanye, that's telling me that they support white supremacy. Plain and simple. I don't care. His music cannot be good enough to make you overlook all of the white supremacy talking points he now clearly supports. Not only white supremacy, but anti-Semitic, sentiments, anti-Jewish people. I mean, it's like just textbook Nazi stuff. you know? And, of course, the people who are in charge of the Nazi propaganda of 2022, like Candace Owens, Fox News, all of these things, of course they love him. Of course they do. Because they want him. He's a tool for them to try and convince other people of color to follow suit. In very much the same way that his movie Homicide. And in that movie, it was all about white supremacy propaganda in order to brainwash the people of color in a poor neighborhood to make them scared of the remaining Jewish business. To say that she had like a fortune, she had a treasure under her store. Right? And to label her as like an evil enemy. And the whole movie is about investigating this murder. Trying to find out who murdered this old Jewish lady. So this is like old school Nazi propaganda just revamped over the years, evolved over the years, still the same stuff. And Kanye is a honored foot soldier in that movement. So if you can somehow enjoy his music and block out the fact that he is pushing Nazi, white supremacy, anti-Semitic stuff, then there's something wrong with you, in my opinion. I can't listen to Bill Cosby stuff anymore, knowing his like serial rape. I feel bad listening to Michael Jackson. And that one's like, there's still some ambiguity to that, right? Unlike Bill Cosby. But like this is like you're seeing it blatant, and it's just getting worse and just getting worse, and it's disgusting. And I don't know why people call him a genius. I think, I think that's propaganda. I think that's part of his marketing. Let's take a little break from the show to promote gift certificates. If you want to purchase artwork for somebody, you have an art lover in your life, and you think they would like my art, but you don't know what painting to get them. I have over 2,000 original pieces of art for sale in my store, along with shirts and prints and other things. So I can understand that being a bit daunting if you're trying to buy something for somebody else. Give them the gift certificate, and then they can go to my website, inspireddisorder.com, and they can buy whatever paintings they want. They can buy whatever prints they want. They can buy t-shirts. They can buy hats. They can buy all the different merch. Gift certificates, which are available currently at inspireddisorder.com. And now let's get back to the show. Let's move on to the last story. Some good news. Some retribution for people that push propaganda, push false narratives in order to attack people who were victims, actual victims. Alex Jones and InfoWars pay $965 million to Sandy Hook families, so almost $1 billion. Joe Rogan's good friend Alex Jones. This is another guy. There's a lot of comedians that would gladly have Alex Jones on. I've stopped subscribing to so many comedians' podcasts because they've kind of followed suit with Joe Rogan as far as going more right-wing. But yeah, Alex Jones, just a disgusting person his entire life. His entire life, he has spewed nothing but nonsensical stories, wrapping iotas of truth in absolute bullshit, which is how you sell most conspiracy theories, is you take actual true elements, but then you wrap a narrative around it to suit your end point. And that's what he does. That's what he's done his whole entire life. Made tons of money. He's profited off of these lies, saying that the victims of Sandy Hook, that it was all fake, that people are actors. These parents who lost their children being harassed for years by Alex Jones followers, by Alex Jones audience. Like, he has directed his fans to harass these people who lost. Imagine that. Imagine you lose your child through horrific means. School shooting, which happens constantly. Your kid is gunned down at school, and then for years you are harassed and threatened by fans of InfoWars and Alex Jones who have convinced them that you are somehow an actor, that your child never existed, that you are somehow like some deep agent, deep government operative. Delusional shit. Imagine that. Having to not only somehow cope with and recover from the tragedy of losing your child in a horrible, unspeakable tragedy that happens all the time because we value guns in this country more than human life. You lose your kid at a mass shooting, and then you're constantly harassed by people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who will harass you, intimidate you, threaten you with bullshit. Just fantasyland bullshit. All the while, this asshole, Alex Jones, rakes in the profits, just selling bullshit. Right? Comes up with his crazy narratives, right? Wraps small bits of truth with insane narratives so that his fans can say, well, I guess sometimes he's wrong, but then he's right about some stuff. It's like, no, he's wrong about the majority of stuff. Because he's accidentally right here and there doesn't mean that he is dispensing truth. He is mostly bullshit, right? If you have a pile of shit and some bread, a bread crumb lands on this pile of shit, you don't call that pile of shit a sandwich just because a crumb of bread landed on this pile of shit. That's what Alex Jones is. People are saying this pile of shit, because it has a speck of bread, is a sandwich. And it's just shit. And it's insane that people support this guy. Not surprising that Joe Rogan's a good friend of his, considering the majority of Joe Rogan's friends are all like rapists and child groomers and criminals, and like he's friends with some of the most despicable people. So not that surprising. But also, you should judge a person based on the people they surround themselves by. You know? So Alex Jones, complete piece of shit. He should be in jail. Like, this is nice. I don't think these people will ever see their money. He should just be in prison. Because he incited violence towards victims of a tragedy so that he can make money. It's ridiculous. It's the same thing that Republicans are doing, begging for money, coming up with their fabricated narratives. I don't know. Alex Jones, one of the worst human beings on the planet. Like $1 billion is like, it should be worse. Like, money, whatever. Money doesn't fix anything. He should be punished. Like, somehow he's going to live a comfortable life. Right? All of these assholes do. They need to be put in prison. I'm tired of these wealthy people getting off with pretending to be the victim. Whether it's Alex Jones or Brett Favre acting like a victim. He stole millions of dollars from poor people. And he's like, oh, the media has really slandered my name. Nothing happens. You see Trump trying to overthrow the government, still walking the streets free as a bird. Like, all these people committing all kinds of crimes. Nothing happens to them. Nothing. I mean, at least this is something. But, I mean, ultimately, I don't know what good it's going to do. Hopefully, some good for the families. I don't think it's going to stop Alex Jones. I don't think it's going to stop InfoWars. I don't think it's going to stop all of the people that do the exact same thing Alex Jones does. You know? I don't think it's going to stop Joe Rogan from getting his buddies on his podcast to give his platform to all these like ridiculous people who think dewormer is a cure for a virus. But whatever. I mean, it's good that at least there's glimpses of clarity in this world of tragedy, and it's crazy. So anyway, let's do some shout outs and get out of here. Shout out to Just.Stop Oil. Shout out to Now This News. Shout out Pubbity. And shout out Vice News. But most importantly, shout out to you.
New episodes of The Ray Taylor Show come out every single day. Subscribe on YouTube and everywhere our podcasts are found. Binge the full week over at InspiredDisorder.com/plus. Buy Ray Taylor Show merch over at InspiredDisorder.com. And follow the show on Instagram at Ray Taylor Show. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Peace out!
Today is the day where you wake up and you realize that everything that you've been dreaming about, everything that you've been wanting, every goal and wish and hope that you've ever had can become real. Dreams can come true. What you manifest in your mind, you can bring to reality.